Hi, Gratitude Seeker. You're now listening to the Gratitude Podcast, episode 60.
In essence, nothing's really missing from our life. Even if it's not in our life yet, nothing's really missing. And to me, knowing that, that's part of that flow of abundance, And so I've also been, when I want to manifest something, instead of looking at it literally like, okay, well, I don't have this particular thing right now, I look at the essence of it. I look at where it is occurring in my life, and I'm just naturally grateful for that. And that it does contribute to keeping the circulation of abundance flowing, and it contributes to manifestation.
Welcome to the Gratitude Podcast on www.georgeandbenta.com, where you'll hear a new story each week that will inspire more gratitude in your own life. Our mission is to inspire 100,000 people to discover how to feel gratitude and live a happy life through the amazing life stories of our successful guests and their actionable tips. And now, the host of our podcast, George and Benta.
Hi, Gratitude Seeker. Welcome to a new episode of the Gratitude Podcast. Today, I'm very excited because I have an amazing person here for you. His name is Oren Harris. He is a world-class facilitator and transformation specialist, but he's so much more than that, and you will surely get to experience him, and you will surely get to see the soul behind the mic. Oren, thank you for accepting my invitation and for being here with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to see what happens.
Me too. So the first thing that I would like us to talk about is, what does gratitude mean for you?
Gratitude to me is very much connected to my heart, connected to the heart. It feels full. It feels abundant. Right? Gratitude to me is a recognition of like how life actually is. Meaning, we live in this abundant space, and all things in perspective. It's brilliant that we're here and that everything's happening as it's happening in support of us and in support of our journey. So, but I feel gratitude in my heart, and the way that it feels, if it had like a feeling to it, it feels full. It feels rich. It feels like a warm hug. Like my heart feels warm when I really feel gratitude in that way.
That's wonderful. I can relate to this because for me, even in situations when I don't feel too grateful or I don't feel great about my life, gratitude has been a constant, like an answer to so many things, like a truth that is beyond the things that I think usually, and the negative things that I see outside or that I think myself. I think this relates to what you were saying.
Yeah, 100%. It's like it's in layers. There's specific things that I may be grateful for, but I think even beyond that, it's just a recognition of like, how amazing is it that like our body operates effortlessly, that we're supported by nature and the sun. Just there's so many things in our favor that once we come into that awareness, then it can fill our being and fill our body and fill our mind. Sometimes it occurs like a remembering. It's like a, just like, oh yeah, like, yeah.
Exactly. I love it. And you mentioned abundance, and I know that I've heard you on another interview, and I thought that you had just an amazing story about abundance, and what I felt was gratitude in action. And it would be great if you could tell us that story, because it's amazing, and I'm sure that it will inspire other people as well.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to remember, because there's actually two stories. Was it involving a BMW or a Jaguar?
Yeah. Both of them actually, because they relate, right?
Yeah. Okay, I'll tell the whole story. So I several years ago, I'd visited California from Texas, which is where I grew up. I visited California several times, and on this one particular visit, when I went back to Texas, I decided I was going to move to California. And I spend the holidays in Florida with my family, which is where my mom is. And on this particular holiday season, I decided, okay, I'm going to move to California now. So I drove my car to Florida to spend the holidays with my family. And I told my mom, I said, hey, when I get a new car, I'm going to give you my car, because her car was getting old, right? And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and give it to her now, since I'm moving to California anyway. And so I spent the holidays in Florida, and I told my mom I was going to give her the car. And she was like, well, what are you going to drive when you get to California? It's like, I don't know. I'll figure it out, but I just really feel to give you the car now. And so she graciously accepted. And over the next couple of weeks while I was in Florida, I started thinking about, okay, well, I'm going to need to get a new car once I get to California. And I thought to myself, well, what kind of car do I want? And I'd never really driven a really like fast car, because I don't drive fast. But I was like, oh man, that could be awesome to have a fast car, just the sensation of acceleration. And then I had driven by a BMW dealership, and I was like, oh, that could be really cool. BMW ultimate driving machine. And so that thought was in my mind. And then I was like, well, what color would I get? So I started visualizing it a little bit, and I was like, oh, probably black. That's the kind of black is classic. And that was the representative of the season of my life I was in. And I think I might have looked at a couple of BMWs online, stopped in a dealership for a moment, and then that was it. Anyway, fast forward, I wind up moving to California. And my first week in California, I went to visit a guy that I had met and spent a little bit of time with a few months before, when I visited California. That was when I decided I was going to move there. And he was like, you just moved to California? He's like, wow, you're really here? And I said, yeah, I'm here, man. And he was like, wow, it's amazing. And so he's like, oh, where are you staying? And then he says, how are you getting around? And I said, oh, I borrowed my friend's car to get here, but I'm going to get a car at some point, because I gave my car to my mom. And he was like, he goes, he said, I just got a new car recently, and I've been trying to sell my old car on Craigslist, and I haven't been able to get the money that it's worth. It's a classic. And he didn't say this, but this is what I felt. I feel like he was so grateful because of when I spent that week. When I met him on my previous visit, basically it was life-changing, right? And so he was expressing gratitude to me from way back when I left. And I was like, oh, my pleasure, whatever. And I just moved on. So anyway, come full circle, when he said, how are you getting around? And I said, I know. He said, you know what? I feel to give you my car, the car that he couldn't sell. And of course it was a BMW, and it was a black BMW. And I was just like, it was amazing, and I accepted it graciously and had the car for about a year. And then I wound up moving into a neighborhood and was just not really driving that much. The car was just parked on the street, and I had some bikes, which that's a whole other story. And so his son had wrecked his car. So I wound up giving him the car back, or giving the car to his son. And it just kind of, circulated in that way. And then now, a couple months later, I went back to Florida for the holidays, like I routinely do. And while I was in Florida, me and my girlfriend at the time decided we were going to move, and we moved into an area where it's like, oh, we probably need a car again. So, so now check this out. I'm in Florida. I spent about a month out of the year there, and I started thinking about cars again. Right. And, I was visualizing a little bit and whatnot. And then I walked past this car one day in the parking lot of my mom's condo, and it was a Jaguar, like XJR, and it was a classic. I'd never been attracted to Jaguars at all. But on this particular day, I just walked past this car, and I looked in, and I was like, and I stopped, and I looked inside, and I was like, wood grain dash, leather seats, just nice, this classic car. And that was for about 60 seconds. And I said to myself, I was like, man, I wouldn't mind having one of these. And then I just walked off. That was it. I didn't say anything to my mom. I literally forgot about that. The next morning, my mom knocks on my room door and she says, "Oh, hey, Oren, I just got off the phone with your aunt in Houston. And at the end of the conversation, she said something about she bought a new car and she was trying to sell her old car." Same scenario, right? And I was just like, I was already feeling, I was like, wait for it. She said to my aunt, she's like, "I think Oren might need a car." And I asked my mom, "What kind of car?" Well, no, she said, "I think Oren might need a car." And then my aunt said, "Well, if he does, tell him to call me." And then I asked my mom, I was like, "Well, what kind of car is it?" It was a Jaguar XJR. I got on the phone with my aunt. I talked to her for like 15 minutes and she's like, "Oren, the car is yours. I'd rather give it to somebody who's going to really appreciate it."
Amazing.
And so I flew to Houston, picked up the Jaguar, and that was it.
Wow. I really love your stories, and I think that the fact that you are also generous, you were generous in the beginning, and you were grateful even for the fact that you were able to give the car to your mom. I think that in turn attracted all of these beautiful experiences. Like, it was easier for you to receive as well, because you've given with love, with appreciation, and I think this is just wonderful.
Yes, yeah, because I gave my car to my mom, and then I gave the BMW to my friend's son. He didn't ask me for the car back. I gave it to him.
That's amazing. I love it. And I love the fact that it's something very concrete. Like, it's not something very, like, when you talk about awareness, when you talk about spiritual things, usually people have a hard time getting them to the reality of the world. And I think this is a wonderful example of how things can happen in the real world, and not just something that's really hard to grasp.
Yeah, completely. One of the things that just occurred to me, it's like, also at some point I realized that nothing's really missing, and that could be a hard one too. But that nothing, in essence, nothing's really missing from our life. Even if it's not in our life yet, nothing's really missing. And to me, knowing that, that's part of that flow of abundance, And so I've also been, when I want to manifest something, instead of looking at it literally like, okay, well, I don't have this particular thing right now, I look at the essence of it. I look at where it is occurring in my life, and I'm just naturally grateful for that. And that it does contribute to keeping the circulation of abundance flowing, and it contributes to manifestation. So it's just like appreciating. It's appreciating, but it's also just recognizing, like realizing that, okay, rather than like looking at it literally going, "Oh, well, I don't have," like, let's just say you want to be in a particular type of relationship and you describe the person and say, "Oh, I want someone who's loving, kind, funny, and adventurous," right? And in your perception, you're like, "Okay, well, I want that," which means I don't have it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you really look closer, it's like, okay, well, these are energies: loving, kind, funny, and adventurous. Where is that manifesting in my life right now, even if it's in a different form?
Wow, this is brilliant.
It's a really powerful manifestation exercise, because what it does is, instead of saying, "I want this," and it doesn't exist, right? So then you're not able to appreciate where it is present. But when you appreciate something and acknowledge its presence, it actually multiplies it. And so now it might be that, oh, well, actually, my friend Mary, who I'm close with, she's really loving. My friend Jane, she's really kind. My friend Susie's really adventurous, and my friend, Mary is really funny, whatever the last one was that I said. Mm-hmm. So the truth is that I actually do have that. But if I look in its absence and then I depreciate or I'm blind to where it actually is, then I'm sending out a signal of lack. But the reverse of that, which is actually, it's just occurring to me as you're talking, I'm remembering, like, that's a really powerful exercise. And it's not even like a mind trick. It's actually just a recognition. If you look closely, anything that you say is missing, many times it's actually the essence of it is somewhere in your life. And you're just not acknowledging it. So you're saying, I'm missing this. And then the universe is like, okay, well, you're going to continue to miss it. But if you're appreciative of like, oh yeah, instead of going, yeah, but I'll give you an example. It would be like if I said,
sure.
It'd be like if I said, man, I want to be on Oprah, right? I want to be on Oprah. Like, what's the essence of that? The essence of that is me sharing my heart and sharing my gifts on a particular platform with someone who's interested, who's sincerely interested, who's interviewing me and asking me questions and then contributing to their audience. It would be like if I said, man, I really, really want that. And then you manifest and say, hey, Oren, you want to be on my podcast? And then, but then in my brain, I'm going, well, universe, I really want to be on Oprah. I really want to be on Oprah, but not recognizing that this is the same essence of how I'm really wanting to experience myself. It's just in a different form. So to me, like, I just quite naturally, I'm glad this is coming up, because I don't think to share this with people. For me, that's actually how I work within my brain, is that if that was the scenario and then this manifested, I would be like, wow, it's happening, rather than, oh yeah, but this isn't Oprah. But I'm like, no, but this is me right now experiencing the essence of exactly what it was that so when I'm appreciative of that, it just multiplies.
This is wonderful. So soon enough, we will see Oren on Oprah.
And then I'll thank you for it. We'll come back on. I feel like, man.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. And it will be awesome, actually.
Yes.
This is wonderful. And I think that this is a whole new way of experiencing gratitude and using gratitude to actually enhance our life. And I think it's just brilliant. I never heard anyone tell this before, and I think this is really, really powerful. And I'm sure that our listeners will find ways of using this in their own life and make things happen.
I have another one that just came to me as well.
All right. Sure, share.
And when I say another one, it's like I've been in the personal spiritual development industry for 10 years. And so another one that is very simple, but maybe uniquely different approach to gratitude. And I actually just did this in a course that I'm running right now. It's called the Bold Fearless Living Challenge. And it's a 30-day fearless action game designed to stretch you out of your comfort zone and create an experienced life much bigger than you've ever experienced, right? And so each day there's a challenge. In fact, I'm going to be running another one. It's going phenomenal. We're on day 10 right now, but day number 6 was bold gratitude and appreciation. And the exercise that came to me, it was so simple, but it was just like this one extra little piece that made it brilliant, and that made it like we sent a ripple of gratitude. And here's the exercise. It's very simple. I'll share it with you. I said, I want you to pick 20 people, and 10 of those people can be people that you know, that you're familiar with, that you it would be normal for you to express appreciation to. And I want you to feel something that you appreciate about them, and like send them a message, a text, pick up the phone and call them. And that simple piece of expressing the feeling, there's something that it does, right? And I coached them a little bit through it. I was like, I really want you to feel it. And from the most authentic place, just express something. Maybe express something that you don't usually express, or something that's like a little detail that maybe they don't even realize that you recognize. And then I said, I want you to pick 5 people who you don't really know that well. They're like acquaintances. And I want you to send them a text, a message, an instant messenger and say something like, I appreciate you, I love you, I appreciate this about you, right? And then I said, and then I want you to pick, that was like 10, 5. I said, I want you to pick one person and just love bomb them. Like send them it could be like a 5 to 10 minute video that you've made, and just turn the video on, take your time, and express your gratitude to them. And so it was so amazing because 2 or 3 people did, like one guy did a Facebook Live video and he acknowledged like 6 different people. He tagged them in the video and like 900 people saw that video. And then it inspired some of the people that he's expressing gratitude to express gratitude. So and like 3 people in my group did something like that.
Amazing.
And yeah, it was just, it was amazing. And the one of the simple things, like I said, was not just thinking it or writing it down or feeling it, but just like reach out with no expectation of anything in return. Just reach out and actually say something that's real to you. So
exactly.
Anyway, yeah.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I think this works very well because firstly, in order for us to really see something that we appreciate, we need to look for it. And it's not something that we do usually
Right.
in our relationships. We have other things to focus on usually. And when we do this, we're looking for the things that we appreciate. And this is one thing that helps a lot. I love the fact that you also mentioned the fact that you need to feel. And this part is important as well, and also expressing it. Of course, there is this quote, but I don't remember it exactly. That appreciation, feeling appreciated, is one of the most important things that we crave as human beings. And expressing this to others is just amazing. But I'm really curious, how and when did you experience gratitude for the first time? Like before, you might have known about gratitude as a concept, but actually feeling it and actually knowing it as your own feeling, as your own experience.
That's a great question. Like that must have been a long time ago. I get the question. I totally get the question. I experienced gratitude for the first time, like really felt it. Yeah, I may need a second one. I may need a second on that one.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sure that it's not an easy question, especially if you want to really go deep and see when that moment was. But the situation is like this. Usually people hear about gratitude, and it has been my experience as well. Like I've known about gratitude, and people were saying this, or even my mom, she was teaching me to say thank you, not actually to be grateful, but to say thank you. And it was a certain moment when I realized the feeling of gratitude, when I felt how gratitude felt, and when I experienced it, and I knew how it felt for me, and that's why I'm asking this question, because it's usually a really important moment. For some, it's a moment when something really bad happened, and I don't know, they got out alive from that situation, or something really positive happened, and they felt a huge appreciation. I don't know what was your situation.
Yeah, I don't know if this nails it down to like the first time, but I started doing coaching like 10 years ago. And when I first started doing coaching, I definitely know that was a level up in my experience of gratitude. Even just like the very first coaching client that I had was suicidal. And yeah, it was quite a way to enter into this industry. So the very first person I had was suicidal, and he wound up essentially saying I saved his life. But the gratitude that I felt coming from him, through him, I felt inside me. Right. So that was definitely a landmark event in terms of me feeling like, and I, even though I was feeling his gratitude, I felt it in my heart. Right. And since my heart was open, I was giving my heart, I also felt grateful. I felt grateful that, that he was still alive, and I felt grateful to be able to contribute to someone's life in that way. Mm-hmm. So that's how the gratitude moved through me. So I felt that, and I felt his gratitude.
By the way, I know that for some, they get to this point of, and I'm sure that you have a lot of experience with this, to this point of thinking about suicide and thinking about doing this. Something happens before, and I think that, and there are studies on this as well, that gratitude can help us not get into that situation and not even get close to that. Can you share a few ideas on this?
Yeah, well, the first thing that comes to me, which is completely fresh on my mind, because a close friend of mine who's in another country was contemplating taking her life last night. And it was the middle of the morning for me. And I wound up just trying to find some way to get a hold of somebody. And I didn't have any of her relatives or contact info or anything like that. She was staying in her in a house by herself. Anyway, so everything wound up being okay, but I rallied some people, that knew her. I'd reached out to a few different people. So then today, when everything wound up being okay, she got these phone calls, right, from people, and she got to experience just how loved she is, right? And this is something that I think she really got the lesson on too, is that when she was isolating herself, right, it blocks the recognition once again to what is, that blocks the feedback loops, and that it blocks reality, really, from your awareness, from you being able to be present to what's present in your life, to be grateful for. So she had this overwhelming gratitude for something that already existed, mm-hmm. right? But for her, it took a traumatic event for her to open back up to the recognition of that. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind, because it literally just happened.
Yeah.
She just told me that an hour ago, oh, I talked to Gina and I talked to so-and-so, and, and we were laughing, and she just she was just overwhelmed and grateful for the love in her life, and grateful for her life.
Mm-hmm. This is really interesting, because it can be the situation when there are a lot of things that we can be grateful for, and we have a lot of people that love us, that care for us. But if we fail to see that, and if we are involved too much in our own head somehow, I think this can be really harmful for us.
Yeah, completely. That's what I meant when I said it creates a distorted perception of reality. And it's essentially, if you're thinking about committing suicide or even in depression, you're really, really in your mind.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that it actually isn't real. And right. that's why what I love about gratitude, because when I have dark thoughts, I tend to do the same, and to forget about all of the things that are actually great in my life and all of the people. And this is why I think gratitude is a truth that's constant. When you just make the switch and you get back to gratitude, you get to see the fact that there are these people, and there are all the kinds of things that are working and that are going great in your life. And I think this can be very useful for our listeners. If you are in this kind of situation, when you feel alone, when you feel like maybe you're too much in your own thoughts and you can't see the people that are around you, you might just need this switch in perception that can really change things.
Yeah. And get, yeah, it can get you out of your head, because once you start isolating yourself in your own thoughts, and then once you start believing your thoughts, then you start creating the feeling. And then once you have the feeling and the thoughts and the feeling and the thoughts, you're really in an illusion, like deeply in an illusion. So, and then it's like it blocks out everything else. So you're literally in a false reality that feels like it's real. That's why it's like gratitude can like wake you up from a dream. You know, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, my whole perception is distorted. You know,
exactly.
So just as a very simple idea, and this is what I shared with her, I was like, you know, don't isolate yourself completely, because you're cutting off all of these feedback loops that are authentic, you know, that are giving you another frame of reference other than your own thoughts.
Exactly. I love it. And I wanted to ask you if, like, I'm sure that you're a human being like all of us, and you have some times that you're not feeling great and grateful all the time. I'm wondering, what do you do when it's hard to be grateful, when gratitude doesn't come easily? Do you have a certain practice?
Not like a consistent practice or something regimented. I think like my practices are more ingrained in my lifestyle at this point, you know? So sometimes it's hard for me to see what my practices are, because they're just like, they're just part of me. Do you know what I mean? And so like one thing that is almost always in my awareness, no matter what, is that I always have something to give. And that, yeah, I always have something to give. So service to me, you know, authentic service is, I mean, that's like an automatic win right there. If I'm not feeling gratitude, or if I'm feeling, you know, not so good, it's like being of service to someone. It's shift that in a second.
So getting out of yourself and this is awesome, because usually when we are sad, when we are, I don't know, having dark thoughts, we're usually in our head, and we are not thinking about other people and how we can be of service, and we forget. This is an interesting thing that happens. We forget about our qualities as well. Like, we forget about how we can help other people, and the fact that we do have a positive impact on other people one way or another, in a smaller or a bigger amount. And yeah, I love this, because when you actually do it, you realize that you do have qualities, and you do matter, and you do have a positive impact on other people. And yeah, sometimes just thinking about it isn't enough, but when you actually go for it and you do it, is the way you actually realize it. I love it. So do you have, like, beyond that coaching call, a particular experience that you feel has helped you to become even more grateful about your life, about your experiences? Something that happened that was just amazing, like you just were left without words, and just in awe and gratitude.
I think I've had so many of those. I have to think of one. Yeah, gratitude has become a natural way of being, in a way, for me. You know, I mean, it varies. I have varying levels of it. And sometimes it's an exercise, but just in general, I feel like I reside in a state of appreciation and also just recognition that life is short, recognition that I don't actually know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. That's the truth, you know, and that type of awareness doesn't slip my awareness for long periods of time. Like, I don't know that there's a day. I don't know if a whole entire day could go by without me thinking or recognizing that at least one time in the day, just like, wow, this could be over in any moment, you know? And so, that's another reason why I don't like to hold things in, like withhold my love, or if I have something that feels incomplete inside me, or if somebody, positive or negative, right? And so these are types of things that are like a practice for me. But I'm trying to think of an event. Being faced with death does that as well for me, you know. So like my aunt, I think it was been over almost 2 years ago now. My aunt passed away, my mom's sister.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that like brought a wave of gratitude into my being, you know, and just preciousness of life and connection. And so death has done that in my world at least a couple of times. And then just perspective, man. I get to interact with people from so many different walks of life and so many different types of situations that it's kind of always in my face in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, I spoke to a guy just 3 days ago now that was talking about his childhood and how he was like raped and molested multiple times by family members and by people he trusted, you know, and was like almost tortured, you know. So it's difficult to be witness to something like that and not, you know, be grateful. You know, maybe not when I was talking to him, I wasn't necessarily feeling grateful, but just in hindsight and reflection, I'm just like, wow, you know. Meanwhile, I'll talk to someone else who's feeling like, oh, somebody doesn't like them, and you know, and they're having a bad day, and it's just like perspective.
Yeah.
Wow, man. So maybe it's also because of the nature of who I am, but also because of the nature of who I be in the world in terms of my coaching and my speaking. And I feel like because I make myself in service in that way, some of these gratitude sort of practices are just built into my life.
Yeah, totally.
If that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and I think this is the ideal. This is where where I would like to get to, and where I would love our listeners to get to as well, to make it such an ingrained habit in our beings that you just can't separate yourself from it, and it's something that's very powerful and leading your life forward all the time. But I'm also very curious if you have people in your life that you're grateful for and that you would like to mention.
Yeah, I'm grateful for my friend Lynn, actually, who I was referring to. I'm grateful to my mom. My mom's always been awesome in my life. She's definitely been a teacher by example for me. And one of the things I really appreciate about my mom, and I've come to appreciate this even more over the years, just having perspective of seeing different families and different things like that. But my mom never stopped me from being curious. So I was a curious kid, like most kids, you know, asking why. Oh, look at why. Why this? Why? And but she never really squeezed that out of me, my curiosity. And even when I remember going to like trying out like different churches and stuff like this, exploring religion, she never was like, you have to go to this church or don't do this. And so I would say that like that is something that really has allowed me to be a free thinker, and to engage with life. So I've retained my ability to ask good questions throughout key points in my life. And I credit my mom for that. So I'm grateful to my mom for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So my mom, she's the first. Yeah. And my friend Lynn, those are two people.
I love it. I love it. And that's so important and so beautiful to be able to see all perspectives and to remain curious. I think this is very important. And also gratitude in my perspective and love are some of the truths that you can find in many, if not all, religions. And I've been through this experience as well. I've looked into different religions and spiritual practices, and was very curious to see the things that they have in common. And I think that these two, at least, are in all religions, and these are extremely important for us all, beyond any kind of way of seeing the universe or God or the creator.
Yeah, totally. And I would add two more to that list. One is, and these almost feel, they're very closely linked, but I'm grateful for, like, I consistently experience magic in my life. Right. And I feel very intimately connected to it. And so much so that it's normal, but at the same time, I still have a deep appreciation for it. And that's like a childlike appreciation, and it's not, and I think that's one of the reasons why it like keeps circulating itself, but it's genuine. Like, I'm genuinely appreciative of that. I'm also appreciative of myself. And one of the things I appreciate about myself is that I've really, really learned to be kind to myself and compassionate with myself. And so I get to be a leader and a demonstration of that for people. And there's a level of, I'm just grateful to myself for that, and for my own deep, unshakable trust and my willingness to stand in my knowing. That's been definitely a part of my journey. And it's interesting, like, because I didn't do it for this reason, but I can also see that deep level of trust in my own soul and my bravery at times and willingness to stand in that. I'm appreciative of that, but that's also builds a level of trust and self-respect and self-worth, because I know I'm not betraying my own soul. So my willingness to go through that, I'm appreciative to myself for standing for myself with a capital S, like my soul, even if the whole world were to betray me. Like, I'm connected to who I really am in that way. And so I'm grateful to, I guess, myself for that.
You can totally feel it. I mean, I can totally feel it. And I think it's one of the reasons why I was attracted by you, the fact that I felt that you were in this state. And you mentioned something that's really important, and I think it's important to take this out of what you were saying. We're not very much taught to appreciate ourselves as well. Like, when you think about gratitude, you think about other people, but appreciating ourselves is so important. And it's something that some people think might think it's narcissistic to appreciate yourself and things like that, but it's actually so important, because our self-talk usually isn't that positive and we sometimes are the people that are the harshest with ourselves. And appreciating ourselves and also being compassionate and kind with ourselves is so important, because we're actually going to interact with other people in the same way that we interact with ourselves, right?
Right.
And if we are doing this, like you said, it's just a gift that we can give to the world to appreciate ourselves. Actually, this is, I think, how we can express it the best. And I love it. I love the fact that you mentioned this, and I think this is just brilliant. And also, I can really feel that there is something magical about you, and
Thank you.
really, so it's and I wanted to say this like 20 or 30 minutes ago, and it's really interesting that you mentioned it, and it does relate to gratitude. Like there is this book from Rhonda Byrne, um, Magic. I don't know if this is the exact title. And I was in a bookstore, and I got to that book, and I wasn't feeling great. I was a bit grumpy, and when I looked into it, there was a lot of information about how we can experience magic through gratitude. But that was very interesting for me, and I was, oh, come on, gratitude again. Really?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that you are doing this, and it's just fascinating how the fact that you embody all these beautiful traits gets to something really, really profound, and has a positive impact on others as well. And I think this is what I appreciate about you, by the way.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So we're nearing the end of our time together, and I wanted to ask you, where can our audience find you? Where can our audience see your work?
Yeah, I am on Instagram. I'm pretty active on there, and that's at Oren Harris, OrenHarris. And I'm also on Facebook at Oren Harris, and I share quite a bit of content on there. I also do live streams, which are really, well, you saw one of my live streams. And my website is my name, orenharris.com, OREN as in Nancy, HARRIS.com. And on my website, yeah, I have a free opt-in on my website. It's like a video series about living in the flow, which is one of the things that I'm known for speaking about, teaching about, being in the flow state, in the right place, the right time, being in the zone, which gratitude also is one of the access points to flow, because it puts you into a state of receptivity and opens up your consciousness to be in tune with more of what really is going on in the flow of life. So, but those are the places that are easiest to find me. My website, Instagram, and Facebook.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here with us. Do you have a final message that you would like to share with us?
That nothing's wrong with you. I think the thought, like, especially in personal and spiritual development, which is well-intentioned, sometimes, like, one of the most profound revelations I have had, which also connects to self-appreciation, is that nothing's wrong with me, right? And so knowing that you are perfect just as you are is a great recognition, and it's a great place to then learn and grow and expand and explore from. So you can't do anything to deserve love. You're worthy of love just as you are. And lastly, I mentioned this earlier, but truly, if you're paying attention and if you're receptive and if you're grateful, you will realize that abundance is the natural order of things. It is your natural state, and nothing's actually missing from your life. But because we have these beloved minds. As soon as we can lock ourselves into the limited perception of our mind, and we can block out all our stuff, block out all of these other experiences, and hypnotize us into believing that all of this stuff is missing from our lives. But to just remember, nothing's actually missing. And it's just a shift in your perception. And gratitude can be that shift. It's like you open up, and instead of you going from your eyes, like your perceptual eyes, which are very limited, you open up the eyes of your heart, the eyes of your spirit, and then you can realize what's already here present now. So yeah, those are my closing thoughts.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Wes.
Yes, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to our weekly podcast. Help us reach our goal of inspiring 100,000 people by sharing this podcast with your loved ones, with your Facebook friends. And if you loved this episode, please write a review on iTunes. Search for the Gratitude Podcast.